At the start of the movie, we see a video of a family enjoying themselves by the ocean. In the following scene, 4 friends are heading somewhere for a vacation, accompanied by 2 brothers and their buddies. As they traveled down the highway, they encountered a car blocking the road directly in their path. The driver, named Brian, had to bring the car to a stop. A man was standing outside the car, seeking assistance. The man approached him and pleaded, "Please, can you guys help me?" However, Brian declined and started driving away. Despite this, the man outside persisted in seeking assistance. He was approaching their car with a tool in hand. As he did this, everyone looked at him and sensed that something might be amiss. Then they noticed the man's car, where a little girl was sitting with a mask on her face and blood on it. Witnessing this, all 4 of them became frightened. Brian pulled his car to the side and drove away. It is revealed that the man's daughter was a victim of the same virus spreading slowly across the world. It was a highly dangerous virus. Anyone infected with it would only survive for a few hours before succumbing to it. As of now, there is no vaccine available for this virus. As Brian and his friends moved the car to the side, the petrol pipe broke, causing gasoline to spill out. Now, stranded without fuel, their car came to a halt some distance away. Brian and his friends found themselves on a deserted highway with no one else in sight. With no other choice, they had to return to the same man who initially asked for their help, as he was their only hope for assistance. They all agreed and gathered their belongings before heading back to the man. Brian, who was armed, led the way. After walking a bit, they reached the man again. Brian approached him and straightforwardly said, "We need your car." But the man countered, saying, "All right, I'll give you my car, but you have to agree to my condition first." He explained that there was a hospital in a nearby city. There, a doctor has developed a vaccine for this virus. If you agree to leave me and my daughter at that hospital, then you can take my car. Upon hearing this, Brian exclaimed, "Are you out of your mind? No vaccine has been developed for this virus yet." However, the man did not respond to Brian's objection. They all agreed to the man's conditions. They seated the man and his daughter in the back of the car, ensuring the area was well covered with plastic to prevent the virus from spreading to the others. They then cleaned up the car and got inside, starting their journey again. Soon, they spotted another car in the distance. Brian and his brother approached it to siphon off some gas, hoping it would help them along their way. When Brian's brother opened the door of the car, he was startled to find a man sitting inside who appeared very lethargic. It was evident that he too had been infected with the virus. His body was decaying. When Brian's brother attempted to retrieve the car keys, the man suddenly regained consciousness. Startled, Brian's brother quickly shut the door of the car again. Nevertheless, they managed to get the gas and reach the city. However, what awaited them was a scene of eerie calm. The city resembled more of a graveyard, with corpses strewn all around. Now that they had arrived at the hospital where the man needed to go, they all entered the building. However, the man instructed his daughter to stay in the car. Upon hearing this, Brian's friend Bobby also insisted on staying there because she didn't want to leave the little girl alone. However, Brian cautioned Bobby, saying, "Stay away from the girl and don't touch her. This virus spreads very quickly." They proceeded inside the hospital, where an eerie silence greeted them. There seemed to be no one around. However, they spotted a child who led them to the doctor who had developed the vaccine. Approaching the doctor, the man pleaded, "I need the cure for this virus to save my daughter, who is also infected." The doctor regretfully replied, "I'm sorry, but a cure for this virus has not been developed yet. It's a medicine that boosts protein levels in the body, and only those who can tolerate this protein can survive." The doctor began administering the medicine to a child, causing everyone to intervene and stop him. But the doctor insisted, "If you have any other way to save these children, please tell me." Upon hearing this, everyone fell silent. Meanwhile, outside, when Bobby was near the child, she saw that the child's condition worsened. Unable to hold herself back, Bobby removed all covers and tried to help the child. Suddenly, the child started vomiting blood, and some of it splashed onto Bobby's face. This implied that Bobby could now be infected as well. She had only gone there to save that poor child, unaware that she would herself become a victim of the virus. Bobby quickly cleaned herself up afterward. In the meantime, Brian and the others also arrived. However, Bobby kept quiet about what happened. Instead, she informed the man that his daughter had fainted but was now completely fine. The man was relieved to hear this news. He informed the four that he and his daughter would remain at the hospital. They were free to leave. Everyone except Brian's brother was pleased with this decision. He felt uneasy about leaving them alone. After driving a short distance, they thoroughly cleaned the car. They then arrived at a nearby hotel with the intention of enjoying themselves. However, upon arriving, they discovered that the hotel was deserted except for the four of them wandering around. Brian noticed that Bobby was becoming weaker. He asked her, "Are you okay?" She replied, "Yes, I'm fine," without mentioning anything about the infected girl vomiting on her. Afterward, Brian sensed something in the pool and upon investigation, discovered a corpse submerged in the water. Shocked and frightened, Brian nearly fell into the pool due to fear. Brian's brother noticed him and quickly came to his rescue. He suggested they take a break and have some fun. They decided to play golf, where they enjoyed themselves and relaxed. That night, while Brian's brother and his friend were wandering around the hotel, a man approached them holding a flashlight. Mistaking him for Brian, they called out to him, but he didn't respond. They were both frightened and started running away from the man with the flashlight. They found a place to hide, trembling with fear. Meanwhile, outside, Brian encountered another man and apprehended him. There were other companions of the man who had apprehended the group. They were all wearing covers and inquired about their captured companion. Brian explained, "When we arrived here, there was no one around. However, I did find a man's dead body in the pool. Perhaps he is your companion." When they went to see, they discovered it was indeed their companion who had died due to the virus. They solemnly cremated his body. Afterward, they instructed Brian and his brother to leave. However, they apprehended the girls, frightening them with their guns and demanding that they strip down. Upon Bobby removing her clothes, red marks appeared on her body, signaling the onset of the virus affecting her. This caused fear among them all. Brian directed his friends to leave. During the journey, no one spoke to Bobby. Everyone was upset with her, especially Brian, who had warned Bobby to stay away from the little girl. While refueling at a petrol station, Brian's brother's friend approached him. She warned that to stay alive, they must avoid Bobby. He then relayed this warning to Brian. However, Brian refused to listen to anything. Shortly after, he stopped the car and told Bobby to get out. Bobby, reluctant to be left alone, pleaded with Brian, "I'll sit in the back like we had that girl sit, but please don't leave me alone." Despite her pleas, Brian remained unmoved, and they left Bobby behind. After driving a short distance, they encountered another car approaching. Brian stopped his car in front of it. His brother stepped out and appealed, "Please help us. We have a long way to go, and we've run out of food." The women in the other car suspected that Brian and his group were infected with the virus and attempted to reverse away. Angered by their reaction, Brian drew his gun and began firing at them. Consumed by rage, Brian acted without thinking clearly, and a bullet from his gun struck one of the women, killing her. In retaliation, the other woman emerged from her car and shot Brian in the leg, injuring him. Brian then shot and killed the woman who had injured him. Despite his own injuries and considerable pain, Brian's brother helped him into the car and drove away from the scene. Further down the road, they came across a house where Brian's brother found some medicine and applied it to Brian's injured leg. While doing this, he noticed a similar mark on Brian's leg as the ones Bobby had on her body, indicating that Brian was also infected with the virus. His brother placed him in the back of the car and drove away. Later that night, they sat in the forest around a fire. Brian's condition worsened because those infected with the virus were known to suffer severely. Brian's brother's friend suggested, "Brian is asleep. Go and get the car keys. We can't stay with Brian any longer, or we might also become infected with the virus." He took the gun and keys from Brian. Then Brian woke up and said, "Brother, you took the wrong keys. I have the actual key to the car. You'll get it when you finish me." However, his brother didn't want to do anything like that. Brian expressed, "I'd rather not perish from illness. It's preferable if my brother ends me." He pleaded, "Please, bring it to an end." His brother fulfilled his request and ended his life. Afterwards, he cremated Brian's body. Then, he departed with his friend. Finally, they arrived at the destination where all four of them had wanted to go, but now there were only two of them. Upon arriving, Brian's brother reminisced about old memories of him and Brian. They often visited the seashore together, but this time, Brian wasn't with him.